What is that?
It's my bone.
God damn it, Cartman!
How would you like to suck my balls?
What did you say?
I'm sorry. Actually, what I said was... How would you like to suck my balls, Mr. Garrison?
Holy shit, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Suck My Balls, the South Park review. I'm your host of the most, lives on the West Coast, your boy, MSG. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Matthew_Schaffer. I am joined by my bro who decided not to bring that camera today, so you're just looking at a picture of his icon if you're watching this on the video. Jackson. What's up, buddy?
Kind of bear with me. I'm kind of losing my voice for some reason. And no, it's not from the virus.
It's from the virus. That's why you can't be on camera.
Yeah, you know. Caught me.
Like I'm too ugly.
Got caught.
Watching this video, you're probably wondering why I have my headphones peaked right here in front of my ear instead of on my ear. That is because I'm potentially going to be getting a knock at the door for some packages. I just want to make sure I can hear the door if someone comes. But hopefully you're here to check out this review of Season 2, Episode number 7, City on the Edge of Forever, Scoop. And this was a parody clip show style of episode that South Park, that Matt Stone and Trey Parker presented. Not one of the highlights of this season. In fact, I would bear to say, other than the fact that, I don't like the Pip episode, this is not a good episode either. This is top 5 lowest if we were making a list for that.
We should. Top best and top worst.
Top worst? Okay, well then we have
to
make a top worst. Go ahead. Okay.
So that way, when someone does go through it, and they can go to our guide and they can see, well, these are the best episodes. And these are the ones that you can skip and have nothing to do with anything. Like, this is the only episode that's like this. There's no continuity to this episode. None of the flashbacks are accurate. Nothing about this episode is funny. Except, you left home and you ran away. And you're all alone.
Oh man, okay, you're correct. There's not a lot of highs in this episode. That was good. That was good imitation. Yeah. So, but this episode itself, as we begin to tell you, was I guess it would be either the episode before their mid-season finale or after, because at this point in the series, they were kind of doing this weird thing where their season would actually start in March. So it would run from like March all the way through June, and then they'd stop for July, August, and even parts of September, and come like last week of September, early October. And then that would then run for the rest of the season to the end of the year, and then they wouldn't come back again until March. Right. So that's how they structure these seasons early on. So right now we're kind of getting to the midpoint of the second season. And they decided to do a spoof on clip shows. So for those unfamiliar with flashbacks or clip shows, I definitely, I guess, don't understand that sentiment. But if you don't understand what it is, here's what a clip show is. It's kind of a recap where they have characters from the episode sitting around and they kind of reminisce and talk about previous instances in which they had misadventures or different shenanigans that took place. So in this episode, they start off with them on a bus, and Mrs. Crabtree happens to be, I would believe, pretty much the main storyline. I mean, the boys are on the bus and they're having these flashbacks, but she's really the only new developing story, new content that they actually write here for the show.
Right.
Now this debuted on June 17th, 1998. It also guest stars a number of individuals who do voice their own characters, which is a big surprise for South Park itself. You got Henry Winkler, Jay Leno, and Brent Musburger. I'm Brent Musburger.
Brent Musburger.
In this episode. So they're on the bus. They're driving up through the road. There's a lot of snow going on. Cartman's eating a cake. This cake is so delicious. And standing kind of like, come on, fat ass, share that cake. He's like, I don't know if I can finish this. Oh wait, yes I can. Cartman not
God damn, Cartman, you are a fat ass.
Well, you know what? In theory, though, if you think about it, Kyle's kind of the one, and Stan, who start and cause this bus accident.
Come on, fat boy, give us some cake now.
I cannot possibly eat one more bite of its chocolatey goodness. Wait, let me try.
Damn it, Cartman, you are such a fat What did you say? Uh-oh! I'm scared! Be quiet, kid!
They were the one egging on Cartman, who just didn't want to share his chocolate cake. Leave him alone. He wants to eat his own chocolate cake.
Right?
I mean, sometimes you don't want to share chocolate cake with people, and that's Cartman's chocolate cake. Just saying. Well, they're driving up the side of the mountain as one of the roads is closed. There's a nasty snowstorm about, and as I just mentioned, and Scoop said, "Hey, Cartman, you're such a big fat ass." Miss Crabtree turns around and goes, "What did you say?" And because of her lack of paying attention, she drives off the road. They fall over like a waterfall, a cliff. They survive all this. And then they end up landing on part of another waterfall where they're like part of the bus is hanging off and the other part isn't. And she's all like, got this strategy with the kids to get them to calm down. She pulls out a gun and a bunny. And she's like, if you do not be quiet, I will shoot this bunny.
I said quiet, or else I kill the bunny!
So stupid.
Very dumb. And she ends up watching this video, like it's a stranded video.
I don't know about this video. Now, did you use the technique that you were going to kill this bunny? Okay. That's right.
That's right, then.
That's right.
That's right, buddy. Yeah, no, it was kind of just dumb. It was just kind of a dumb storyline. This was dumb here to begin with. Yeah. And she's like, now that you've, the video's like, now that you've calmed the children, gently tell them that if they get off the bus, a big scary monster will eat them. And then she turns around, if you get off this bus, a big scary monster will eat you. That's right. And
that's right.
That's right. And so she decides to leave to go get help. Leaves the kids just hanging out on this bus. It's creaking and crocking. Not even going to take them with them. Like if they all got off the bus one by one and she led them down the mountain, they could have gotten safety. But no, that's not what they decided to do. She decides to leave, go down the mountain. She sees a truck driver driving by. He's all like, oh, yeah, I'm going to give you some action. And he opens up the truck. She gets in the truck. They start driving away. That's it. Like, doesn't even like drive there to like try to find anybody. She kind of does at first, but eventually it leads her down her own celebrity status. So where do you want to start, Ian? Do you want to go down her storyline first or the boys' flashback shit really quick?
Let's go down her storyline because it's really, there's more of the kids' storyline, and hers is really quick, but it's just spread out. You know what I'm saying? That's
a good point. So her storyline is he and her end up driving down the road. She popped a couple of roofies thinking it's aspirin. He's apparently driving a roofie truck. Yeah. So he works for the roofie company. And they walk into a comedy club, clearly him trying to get her drunk so he could, take her home and give her some sweet loving as he's asked us her have the roofies kicked in yet? Oh, all right. And so she walks in and she yells at Carrot Top, who's delivering jokes. Sit down, shut up. Just people think it's funny.
You guys, shut up. Jesus Christ.
People just think she's funny just because she's saying, sit down and shut up. Shut the hell up. You're an idiot. You suck. Blah, blah, blah. He pisses his pants. That being Carrot Top. We then move on from there. So now she's like totally, whatever. She's going to be a celebrity because an agent guy likes her. So he introduces her to a bigwig in Hollywood or whoever it is. And he's all like, she's great. She's hilarious. Like, all she's doing is like making fun of people. Like, just, you look like, what did she, I forgot what she said about the bald guy.
I don't know.
Like I'll clip it.
You look like a lump of dog shit that just got hit by a car!
But it was like she just made fun of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then she moves on from there to then performing on the Jay Leno show, which Jay Leno voices his own character.
What the hell are you all staring at? Stop laughing, you whores! I said shut up!
Let's hear from Miss Crabtree. What an up-and-comer!
And she does her bit. And that's kind of her storyline, right? I mean, we can talk about the end. We can talk about the conclusion of her storyline here at the end. But we have to kind of talk about what happens first with the boys now, I think.
So yeah, we can talk about the boys.
But basically, that's what her storyline is. She just kind of does a comedy career and eventually decides that this life isn't for her after she does one appearance on Jay Leno. This life's not for me. I should just go home and let's go for a walk. So we'll get to that ending conclusion, what happens there. But the boys, they're on the bus now, and a big scary monster might eat them. So here's what happens. They're on the bus following diversion along that mountain pass. Miss Crabtree got distracted. Kids remain there and they remember past experiences featuring clips from previous episodes. Although they usually end with everyone enjoying ice cream and new animated sequences. So that's the only thing that's notable really, is that they're going back and kind of just like rewriting their own episodes, if you will, but in a faux pas type of way.
Now that's what I call a sticky situation.
That's what I kind of sticky situation.
Now that was what I call a sticky situation.
So when a student tries to leave the bus, who I believe is, what's his name? It's the Star Trek kid from the later episodes. It's got to be one of those Star Trek kids' friends. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I can't remember his name though, but yeah.
Is it Brandon Stoley?
I think so. I think it's Brandon.
Brandon Stoley, the Star Trek kid. So it's one of these Star Trek kids. He's wearing a Star Trek outfit, and he decides, he's like, fuck this. If I'm going to die, I'm just going to die. So he gets off the bus, and then a big scary monster eats him, which is kind of ridiculous.
A little bit.
However, back in South Park, we should mention that there is a side story, as, you know, Sharon, Stan's mother, Sharon Stan's mother decides to, you know, look for Stan. So she calls Leanne. And she's like, hey, Leanne, have you seen the boys? And she's like, oh, no, I have not. Hold on. And then she like starts blurting out like food of things like, hey, honey, I've made cookie bits or whatever she said, or all these things, weenie things. And no, he's not here. And she's like, oh, no, now I'm really worried. So they end up going to the school and talk to Mr. Mackey. Mr. Mackey deflects a blame of the school itself. He's just like, well, maybe they ran away. Doesn't want to take responsibility for the fact that the school itself has lost their children. I guess we can go ahead and drop the news now, because I was going to say Mr. Mackey plays a pivotal role. Or not a pivotal role, but he plays a funny role in the next episode. But we're going to go ahead and stooge this off, because if you're listening to this, we know you enjoy the episode. We're going to go ahead and do a double episode this week. So me and Ian are going to record another episode here of Suck My Balls that will be up within the next day or two after you watch or listen to this one. So look out for that one. That one is Summer Suck. Yeah. And that one will have Mr. Garrison having his own subplot. That's fucking hilarious. But anyway, we'll get to that funny episode after we record this episode. So eventually the parents decide to like posting pictures around the town and shit like that. Of like they're looking for the kids. One of them is Macaulay Culkin. Have you seen me? I thought that was another shot at Michael Jackson coming up last episode of them thinking about, you know, come on, just ignorant. Sure, he touched some children. It's Michael Jackson. It's Michael Jackson. Anyway,
yeah, it's okay, Jesus, if you want to touch some children. We all want to touch some children.
Y'all want to touch some children sometimes, Jesus. It's okay.
It's okay.
Now, the kids are on the bus. They're telling all these different stories, and we're not going to go through each different one, but basically they retell the end of the pilot episode, the end of Jimbo and Ned's big hunting, the end of Death with Kenny, which I'm going to get to here in a second. They also tell a different. Cartman tried to tell his own different story about Fonzie and Happy Days, and they were like, "That's not how it fucking happened, dude." Hey. Like he actually makes the jump and kills Kenny, but Kenny just had just died on the bus from the big scary monster.
And this is the first time that they kind of allude to his deaths, you know?
Yeah, Cartman kind of has a faux pas for a second. He's like, "Oh, wait a minute. I guess you're right. Kenny couldn't have died in that story." I digress, though.
Right.
Also, as we're talking about the different, so basically they end with, rather than there being a conclusion of like the regular story, like I'll give you an example in the alien probe episode. Instead of a giant satellite coming out of Cartman's ass, it's a giant ice cream truck, and the aliens show up and eat ice cream. At the end with Scuzzlebutt, instead of him making them a wicker basket to get across the lava, they make them ice cream, and instead of Brian Boitano as the leg, it's Brent Musburger.
It's Brent Musburger. Hey kids.
Yeah, it's
So stupid.
it's not good. So it was all ice cream related, but Kenny does have an interesting one because I thought his was funny. So let's go ahead and kick it over really quick here while we're in the middle of reviewing to What Did Kenny Say?
What did Kenny say? We'll work on that.
What did Kenny say? Something like that.
Something like that.
So at one point, Kenny starts telling his story and he says, "Hey, you guys, remember when Terrence and Philip was off the air?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that." And Kenny says, "All I know is it was a long time ago and Death was chasing us on a bicycle down the street." So Death's chasing them down the street, and then all of a sudden Kenny flips Death off the trike and starts jumping on him, and like just Death starts coming apart. Mm-hmm. And then Kenny's like, "You dick, that is for me, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that." And like he's just basically stomping on him.
And if you're not careful, you can miss the tiny little, and this is for me. So Kenny knows that he constantly dies, huh? They always allude to that later on in more like subtle and different ways, especially when we get to Mysterion.
Yes, exactly. He definitely knows, of course. That's when he gets the full figuring out. Like, that's kind of like it unlocks the key, and then he finally understands it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But Kyle and Stan return to watch Kenny killing Death, and Stan says, "Oh my God, Kenny killed Death?" And Kyle's like confused. He's like, "You bastard!" Like even he's confused in like the context of the story. And then Kenny reaches into Death, pulls out some ice cream. And then Kenny says, "And that's what I got, sticky situation."
Yeah, that's what I got, sticky situation.
And that's what Kenny said. That's what Kenny said. So, as we mentioned, Cartman suddenly realizes how little sense of everything makes and wakes up in his own bed eventually. But this is after like the bus starts to creep and like go back and forth, and it falls over the cliff. And rather than them dying, they land in a bucket of ice cream. Ice cream. And then that's when Cartman's like, "Wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. I must be in a dream." And then he wakes up, and then he starts explaining his dream to his mom. And he's like, "Hey, Mom, I just had this dream that we were all talking about flashbacks, but all the endings were different. We all had ice cream." And his mom's like, "Oh, dearie, well, have some Beatles."
These are some good Beatles.
So they just sitting there eating Beatles, and then all of a sudden goes to Stan, and he wakes up in his bed, and then he calls Kyle.
Hello? Dude, I just had the weirdest dream.
Really?
Yeah, I dreamt that Cartman dreamt that we were all trapped on a bus, and then he dreamt that we were talking about things that had happened, only they were all wrong, and then he and his mother ate Beatles.
Dude, that's a pretty f***ed up dream.
Yeah, I must be having some real emotional problems.
Hey, me and Cartman and Kenny are going down to Happy Burger. You want to come?
Sure. I definitely don't want to sleep anymore. See you later.
Funniest part, the whole episode.
Right. So that's how that storyline pretty much, because then they're like, "Hey, let's go." What did they say? Go find Kenny and go do something. I forget what it was, but
Something stupid.
Some kids like, "Hey, let's go do something." So they leave. And then now we cut back over to the resolve of Mrs. Crabtree. So now that we know that this is a dream, Mrs. Crabtree and Marcus are shown sitting on a log near Stark's pond. And Marcus explains that, of course, this is all a dream. And Mrs. Crabtree's like, I just want to enjoy this moment just a little longer.
Just a little longer.
And that's the episode, guys. I mean, there wasn't really much more in depth. As we said, it was a clip show. We're going to kind of get into it right here within the last 10, 15 minutes of this review to explain more some of the underlying tones and what we mean by what their idea was and maybe what they were going for. So this actually, of course, satirizes the desperate and half-assed attempt that all episodic TV episodes do. Or TV shows do, right? They always, at some point in the show, whether it be halfway through, whether it be the end, or whether they just start to run out of fucking ideas, they put a clip show together. So they were doing it now. However, it was weird that they did it so early into the show.
Right.
It's just season 2. So that was just a little odd. Now, granted, I get it. As we mentioned, the episode, this came out June 17th, 1998. So I think this was, again, right before the mid-season finale. So I think they were also trying to fuck with the fans a little bit more.
Just a little bit. They always got you.
Because everybody puts the importance of these shows in new episodes. So they were just like, okay, here's a clip show. Right? Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the underlying tones. The City on the Edge of Forever is actually the title of an episode of the Star Trek original series. And several aspects of the episode actually itself also parody that episode of Star Trek. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The 1997 action film Con Air is referenced when Mrs. Crabtree holds up a live bunny and threatens to shoot if the children will not be quiet. If you have not seen the movie Con Air, as the plane's going down the whole time, Nicolas Cage is trying to protect this stuffed animal to give to his daughter. And it's a bunny. One of Nicolas Cage's better performances early on in his career, as he does not have a lot of dialogue.
Right.
One of the children's flashback features Fonzie, as we mentioned, from Happy Days, jumping over a series of garbage cans, referencing the season 3 2-part episode Fearless Fonzarelli.
Hey.
I also mentioned, one of the missing posters featured Macaulay Culkin, and that was also possibly a reference to the first 2 Home Alone films. We didn't mention I mean, you sang it a little bit, but when the kids see their parents singing on TV, they're singing like a "We Are the World" song.
They get roasted by the kids.
They get roasted. Stan's like, "Oh my God," and then Kyle's like, your dad's an idiot or a homo," or whatever he says, and then all of a sudden his dad comes on.
"Hello, Stanley. It's me, Papa. Gosh, your mother and I miss you, and I hope that wherever you may be, you'll hear this message. Little lamb, lost in the great big world, run away, finding streets still cold."
Dude, your dad's a retard.
Please come home, Kyle.
You left home looking for something new, but all you need is right here waiting for you.
Run away, come home, love you just as you were. Run away, come home, we're sorry things got this far.
Dude, did it ever occur to them to just look for us?
So Parker and Stone kind of have to end this show somehow, and they resort to the revelation that it was just all a dream, which I think I read somewhere that they thought that was interesting, because it was kind of like a shot at other shows that go, how do we get out of things? Okay, let's just do a dream ending.
Right.
That's really what they did. But really, as I put here in my notes as well, this episode is a real bonanza of just meaningless celebrity voice cameos. They really have no place in the show. They're just there. Mrs. Crabtree gets her own episode and it really means nothing.
Yep. Really means absolutely nothing.
All right. So as we wrap up here, let's talk about our top moments we kind of liked, I guess. One, I loved in the flashback about the Kathy Lee Gifford. First of all, they're trying to stop Garrison, and then he shoots Kathy Lee Gifford, but this time she's an alien. So he's like, "See, I told you." And they cut to Cartman, and he's in a beefcake suit, and he's fucking ripped.
Yep.
I fucking love that meme when people use that meme. I've seen it on the internet.
Yeah, we got that. I should put a ×2 on that.
Right.
We basically have the same moments.
The second moment I put here references the fact that I have to actually watch this show, Scoop.
Mm-hmm.
On MeTV on Saturday and Sunday nights, could be every night. That's just the nights that I monitor it. We air MeTV programming content, and one of those shows is Barnaby Jones. Barnaby Jones is a show that took place in 1973 from 1980, and it's the main character is the dad from the Beverly Hillbillies. He plays the major detective, and it's a detective style show. It's very cheesy, very campy. It always ends with Barnaby Jones somehow cornering his like person he's trying to catch. It's ridiculous. But it took place for 7 years. So that popped me because I was like, I finally get that reference now because I have to watch that show.
Ah, damn, man, now I'm missing the new Barnaby Jones.
I put them doing a flashback within the episode about a flashback as another top moment I liked because they were like, hey, remember when that kid got off the bus and tried to leave? And then the kid gets off the bus and he gets eaten, but then the big scary monster starts eating ice cream. And they're like, and that's what I got. I think it's raging. So it was kind of Inception there. It was a dream within a dream.
It's a dream within a dream.
And then the last thing I put liked here, and you probably put the same thing here, was the parents' song about missing kids.
Mm-hmm.
We basically had the same like and dislike moments here as here's something we didn't like. It wasn't really funny. This episode, I mean, it was well written, we get it, but it wasn't funny. It wasn't a funny episode.
Mm-mm.
Second thing was it was just a dream. Kind of a stupid way to introduce Miss Crabtree and then cop out there at the end. And not even really have any developmental here. And this is really the last time we're going to see Mrs. Crabtree until she dies in the left-handed killer when Cartman becomes a psychic. Do you see?
Can you see?
That's when she dies in that episode. One Miss Crabtree. And then the third thing we disliked was the storyline itself. That kind of ties to that storyline. It was dumb. Like all of a sudden,
stupid.
She doesn't even like go find help or like at least alert them to like to get help. No, she just bounces and becomes a comedian.
Yeah.
And then doesn't even become a famous comedian. She doesn't even see it through.
No.
So she sells herself short on the own dream itself. It's kind of
dumb, dude.
This whole episode. Scoop, as I think I can gander, this one does not make top 20, does not make top 50, does not make top 100, does not make top 300. This makes Scoop's lowest 5.
The lowest 5.
It is number 5 on the worst. And it's from bottom to top. So I'm going to say 5 is the worst. And 1 is the best of the worst.
Lowest top 5.
This comes in at number 5.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue. You were saying?
Yeah, this one's number 5 on the worst. So from my list of the worst is going from the lowest, or I guess the highest number to the lowest. So 1 is going to be like, the winner of the worst. Number 5 is the worst of the worst.
Number 5 is the worst of the worst. So what number is it?
Number 5.
Number 5. We think this is worse than Pip?
Ooh, goddamn. All right, the number's going to be remain to be
revolving.
I think
about revolving. That's a good idea for the worst. So right now it's your number 1 worst ranked number 5.
Yes.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. I would say on my ranking, I'm going to put this as number on your scale there. I'll put it as number 3. Like, I think that Pip is number 5 for me still. And there is another one that I know it's going to be coming. I forget what it is, but it's coming up and I don't like it. So, but that's it, dude. We got through the episode. Nice, quick little episode, guys, because as we mentioned, it's not really a full on like, lots of shit to go over type of episode. It's just a quick flashback episode that was probably put together fairly easily for them. All they had to really do was go in and animate some new stuff and then do one storyline with Mrs. Crabtree and do a singing moment. We are the world. So that's another edition of Suck My Balls. This has been episode number 21. We release these every Wednesday. So if you're listening to this this Wednesday, I'm going to click the little button here in the computer here. What's the date next Wednesday? The 6th. If you are listening to this the 6th, we will drop the next episode, Suck My Balls number 22, on Friday the 8th. So we're going to give you a double dose this week. You're going to get 2 episodes. So stay tuned. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on the Twitter, Matthew_Schaffer. Twitter. You can follow Scoop. Hit him up at our Twitter at Suck My Balls Pod. You can hit us up on Instagram at Suck My Balls Pod. You can find us on Facebook at South Park Pod. That's it. It's another edition of Check My Balls, Steve.
Sick man.
Check My Balls.